don't get here today without protest. We don't get to be sitting in the state of Connecticut poised to pass a police accountability bill without protest. This country wouldn't be facing some of its demons without protest.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. The Black Lives Matter protests have achieved a real step forward in Connecticut. At a special session of the Connecticut legislature, a bill passed that puts actual limits on police use of deadly force. It forbids the use of deadly force unless the officer has tried to de-escalate the situation and has tried all reasonable alternatives to the use of deadly force. It requires officers who see other police illegally using force to intervene or else face the same kind of criminal charges. If these requirements had been in place in January, the police killing of Mubarak Solomon in West Haven would have been obviously been illegal and might never have happened. The new law also makes criminal charges, or takes criminal charges, out of the hands of the state attorney who works all the time with police and puts it into the hands of an independent inspector general. And the law makes it somewhat easier to penalize police individually in lawsuits for gross misconduct when using deadly force. A leader of the effort to get the bill passed was West Haven's Senator Gary Winfield. You can read more about him and the bill at the new news site, westhavencall.com. Talking about West Haven, politicians and police commissioners there still refuse to criticize any state or West Haven policeman for actions in January or for bringing out dogs against protesters and arresting some protesters on July 5th. Now, from a few days before the special session, a Black Lives Matter event in West Haven. State Senator Gary Winfield made it plain that it was street protests all across Connecticut that got the bill to the special session and to the point of passage.
To talk to you and thank you for being willing to protest, not just rally, but to protest. I don't get here today without protest. We don't get to be sitting in the state of Connecticut poised to pass a police accountability bill without protest. This country wouldn't be facing some of its demons without protest. And so to me, that word is important. And I know it's got a negative connotation from some people. They want you to rally and share stories and do some of the things they want you to do. But what this country needs right now are people to stand up and say, what we've been doing is no good. What we've been doing is not good for some of the people in this country. Well, it's not good for anybody, but some of the people in this country who don't get listened to. And in our state houses, we have to listen to them. In our federal government, we have to listen to them. Look, across this country right now, even with the protests going on, and if you look at state governments, you're not seeing all that much actually happen. There's a lot of conversation, but not a lot actually happening. We have to protest as much as we possibly can. And I'm going to tell you, being here, this is 28 years for me. I remember being the age of some of you out there. This is 28 years for me, and I know how difficult it gets. And I know oftentimes nobody is thanking you for the work that you're doing. But I'm thanking you because, again, without protest, I don't get here. When I go to the State House and I say there's something wrong, I'm talking about people don't normally talk about. And if nobody's out there making it clear that what I'm saying is true, then we don't get that bill, and we don't get the other things we've seen.
I'm the lead organizer of Pollinator Pathway in West Haven, and this is a project that we started last year, and we had a fundraiser this year, but we raised over $2,600 to install pollinator plants around in West Haven. So we're going to look at our chart here, and you can see this map shows us all of the wetlands in West Haven, and this map shows us all the public spaces. And the goal of Pollinator Pathway is to join our community together by having pollinator-friendly plants. So we're going to be installing them, and we're looking for people to get involved and install more pollinator plants.
And what is the website?
It is pollinator-pathway.org/West Haven.
A lot of messages were made with chalk, including this "Say Their Names" display on the sidewalk. And in a good sign, the Hartford Police Union pledged full cooperation with the new law. How about other unions and other police chiefs? Herman Cain has died. A former head of an association of restaurant owners, he became a front runner in 2012 for a short time for the presidential Republican nomination. In 2016, he was a Trump loyalist. He attended Trump's infamous Tulsa rally this year, this mass meeting where the people are all crowded together, mostly unmasked. And he himself was frequently unmasked at that meeting. Apparently, he paid the price. He died of COVID-19. This is a short video from the Israeli group B'Tselem about the use of dogs by some Israeli vigilantes against Palestinian shepherds.
يابا عضوا 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 يلعن.
ابعد ايدك. هي ابعد ايدك. ارجع 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 تريد ماذا؟ تريد سلامتك. ابعد ابعد ابعد
هم سرقوا تلفونه يا زلمه، سرق تلفونه.
قالوا لك التلفون
مصادر
زي ما قلتوش.
B'Tselem also has a video from June showing Israelis going into a village near Hebron and harassing the residents. The village is called Kirbet Susya and is made up of about 350 people. It was a unique society that until 1986 mostly lived in caves. That year, the Israeli government declared their area an archaeological site and kicked all the people out. They managed to move to farmland that some of them owned and started a village there and lived in tents. And now even this is threatened by government and vigilantes, and you'll see some of what's going on now.
יש בו חיילים גם?
شو الو الو
למה הוא בו? למה הגעתם לי בו? כנראה זה מותר מן הצבא. הצבא רוצה לחמם השטח, בסדר, אין בעיה. אני אגיד לך, אנחנו נעלה. למה אתה צוחק? למה אתה צוחק? למה אתה צוחק? למה אתה צוחק? זוז, יאללה, זוז מפה. זוז, יאללה, זוזו. זה הבית שלי, אתה חייב לשמור. זוז, זוז ג'ינג'י, זוז. זוז, בעייתי.
אתה לא מקשיב לי? אתה לא מקשיב לי? אני לא אטפל.
לא, תתאבל עכשיו.
אין בעיה, אני פה כדי לטפל, אבל אתה לא תצטרך עליי.
חיילים? בסדר. לא, זה הבית שלהם. חצי סנטי אחורה לא חוזרים, אתה יודע? חצי סנטי. אנחנו בוא נשאר.
בסדר? תן לנו לטפל בזה.
בסדר, אנחנו נעלה לשם גם. בסדר, אתם מגיעים בואו, אנחנו נעלה לשם. בסדר. זה הבעייתי גם. כל הבעייתים בו. אתה הגבול של... תראה, אנחנו לא הולכים מפה, לא הולכים.
יש שטח צבאי סגור.
איפה?
הנה, שטח צבאי סגור.
איפה? על בית שלנו?
כן.
תקשיב, אני אגיד לך, גוש הוא הפרובוקטיבי, אנחנו כאילו...
מה זה הם בבית שלנו? מה זה? שומעים הם בבית שלנו? נכנסים לנו לבית?
You will now see the Israeli police using water cannons, no, not against Palestinians, against other Israeli Jews. These are people fed up with the Jewish state's failure against the coronavirus and its failure to help the poorer sections of society. So hundreds of people come out daily to protest in front of the Prime Minister's home in Jerusalem. They are being met with police violence and thugs, encouraged by Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud party. One group of thugs calls itself La Familia. It's actually a fan club of the Beitar soccer team. It believes its mission is to destroy leftist Jews. On July 30th, there was a rally against Netanyahu of about 1,000 people in Jerusalem. Besides social protest slogans, some chanted justice for Iyad al-Halak, that autistic Palestinian man killed by Israeli police on his way to school last month. The fascists, La Familia, numbered about 50, but they physically attacked members of the media. One was heard to chant, "All the media are Nazis." They also attacked a Palestinian bus driver. A few were arrested. Now, a bit of the interview that I promised about the artist working on a Black Lives mural in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
I was basically taking these white letters and adding some more gold to them to give them more of a pop, more of a presence, so the gold really stick out. And basically what I'm doing is I'm putting in gold streaks, kind of like to create a cloud effect almost like marble, I guess you could say. And then what I do then, just dip into white paint and try to blend the white and the gold together, so you have various shades of white and gold. And again, trying to create that kind of almost like window or marble effect, if you will.
How long have you been doing painting? Or is that your profession?
I've been painting and drawing since I was 5 years old. It's not necessarily my profession, but it is something that I've done for a long time, and sometimes I get work. Sometimes I've done some exhibits here and there. I exhibited my work at the Basketball Hall of Fame. Done some exhibits around here, some local exhibits. I'm also a musician, professional musician, and I'm also a writer.
Great.
So I'm trying to manage these artistic disciplines. As you know, it's not easy. I need 48 hours in a day. But I'm glad this project came along, man. This is actually my home church. I was baptized here back in 1976. My mother came up in this church. My aunts, cousins. Family church for me.
See the complete interview among our YouTubes. Go to thestruggle.org and click on our YouTube section. As we've mentioned, the NTE company has put supplies on site in Killingly for the fracked gas power plant it wants to build. Stopping the global warming gas factory is no joke. Just this week, Hartford, Connecticut had its highest morning temperature on record. And Baghdad, Iraq, this week averaged 124 degrees for 3 days. Now, a speaker at the virtual rally against the plant from a volunteer at the Sierra Club, Martha Klein.
So I'm going to go like big picture then to smaller picture. In the history of the United States, human oppression and environmental exploitation are so closely linked that we don't really distinguish between them. For example, 500 plus years ago, when Europeans came to this continent in order to extract resources for profit, among other plausible reasons, one of the resources they extracted were humans, who were listed in the European ledger accounts as commodities, along with gold or plants. Similarly, 401 years ago, when Africans were forcibly brought to the continent in chains, their measure was listed in purely economic terms, with no accounting for humanity or for their suffering. Again, they're regarded as a resource to be exploited. Now, fast forward to the 21st century, and what has changed? I would say only our words have changed, but our actions are the same. Energy companies know enough not to use the language of slavery when they talk about people who live in the sacrifice zones for their projects. The calculus of energy companies is strictly in economic terms. So, for example, in the city of Bridgeport, which was mentioned already, there are now 2 large fossil fuel burning plants in addition to other polluting infrastructure. There's the coal plant and there's the new gas plant that came online last year. And that means that in a community which is 80% people of color, there's going to be more asthma and more Black families that will suffer the ruinous effects of energy company endeavors. But that's not called human oppression. It's called economics. Only communities that have sufficient legal expertise and money, basically, are able to resist harmful infrastructure. Low income and communities of color rarely have resources like money and legal expertise. And when you look at that cycle of oppression and exploitation, it's very obvious why. So very much like when a human body becomes invaded by one disease, it's then vulnerable to other diseases. So similarly, in a community that has economic and social malaise that arises from redlining, that arises from bank denials, that arises from absence of civic infrastructure, that arises from the school to prison pipeline, and various issues, they are more vulnerable to predatory energy projects that sacrifice people who are the most vulnerable. So the cycle of oppression, exploitation that takes from the vulnerable and enriches the privileged continues. And how does Governor Lamont fit into that? Because he's a nice man and he doesn't want to oppress people. Governor Lamont appointed Katie Dykes as the commissioner of DEEP, and she's an energy lawyer who has no experience or background in environmental protection. DEEP has always historically encouraged the expanded use and transport of fracked gas into Connecticut. So we are piping fracked gas from the fracking fields to our west into the state of Connecticut and using them in ever expanding number of projects, which includes the Killingly Energy Center. And until really recently, DEEP was totally unfriendly to renewable energy. So that means that DEEP has been helping all along to enrich the entrenched powers that be, which are almost entirely owned by white people. And then those companies with their increased wealth can then prey on the poorer communities, and so on, and so on, and so on. Killingly is, although it is not a community of color, is not a wealthy community, and in the past it met the criteria to be considered an economic justice community. They also have a lot of polluting infrastructure that already exists, and building a brand new fracked gas power plant is going to harm the health of local people, and that's for sure. And just so everyone knows, we are taking actions to fight it. There's 2 more permits we're fighting. There's going to be first hearing on July 9th, then there'll be more upcoming hearings, and Sierra Club Connecticut will have information about it on our website. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha, for taking us through that. We really appreciate you lending your voice to this. Up next, we have Leah Rawls, president of the Windham and Willimantic branch of the NAACP, who has been working tirelessly to build the branch membership while addressing issues in the community related to racial discrimination in areas of employment, housing, medical, and matters related to police complaints. Thank you so much for being on the call, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mitch. It's good to be here, and thank you for all the speakers prior to me speaking. The energy is certainly out there, and now is the time to make a difference. And to Governor Lamont and to Commissioner Dyke, I have this to say. The planned NTE fracked gas power plant in Killingly would affect us regionally in an area of our state that is economically depressed. Traditionally, Black and brown people, Native people, and low-income communities in the United States and worldwide are affected by this. In 2016, when NTE explored the possibility of building this plant, the median annual household income in Killingly, Connecticut was $35,871. That goes to show you that there is an economic injustice happening here. Offering financial compensation to towns like Killingly can actually tempt the government officials to overlook the health effects of their citizens. Windham County has the highest child asthma rate in the state. I'm an asthmatic as well, so I clearly understand that. This plant, if built, is sited within 2 miles of 4 public schools, a daycare center, a recreation park, a highly populated lake area, a convalescent facility, and newly constructed elderly housing complex. Children and the elderly are the most vulnerable to these respiratory and cancer health risks that happen because of fracked gas. Estimated emissions from this plant include 2 million tons of carbon dioxide, particulate matter, and other pollutants every year. Killingly already has a PG&E gas power plant less than a mile away from this site. So this is in addition to those emissions. Regionally, there are those other plants nearby in Rhode Island which will spread pollutants into our air, water, and soil. Sounds familiar? It really is. Local towns will not benefit from this plant, as the power will be added to the grid to benefit large urban areas in surrounding states. Connecticut does not need this energy. NTE will profit at our expense and at the expense of our health. Natural gas is not a clean, renewable energy source, and it is in direct contradiction to Governor Lamont's zero carbon future. We ask in 2019, Connecticut legislator, including Senator May Flexer from our area, sent a letter to Governor Lamont in opposition to the plant's construction. The governor has expressed his opposition to this plant, but pressure needs to be kept on him and on Deep Commissioner Katie Dykes to do everything possible to prevent construction. Again, to prevent construction. Local Dayville homeowners have filed lawsuits and appeals leading to a Connecticut Supreme Court decision to be heard in September. It is in the best interest of all Connecticut residents, especially Windham County citizens, to join the NAACP and other organizations in preserving the health and well-being of our people and actively opposing construction of this facility. I really hope that the governor takes heed to what we are saying today and lets NTE know that they are not welcome in our state. Thank you.
We haven't said much about Saudi Arabia recently. Listen to this update about a political prisoner from Democracy Now!
And in Washington, D.C., human rights groups held a drive-through birthday celebration outside the Embassy of Saudi Arabia Thursday in honor of the political prisoner and women's rights activist Lujain al-Hathloul. She was arrested in May of 2018 after leading a movement to lift a ban on female drivers and to overhaul the male guardianship system in Saudi Arabia. Ahead of Thursday's protest, al-Hathloul's sister Lena published this message.
Hi everyone, my name is Lena. I'm Lujain al-Hathloul's sister. Lujain's a Saudi activist who's been in prison for more than 2 years now. And worse than this, she has not given any sign for almost 2 months. She's going to spend her 31st birthday in prison. And so Lujain, wherever you are, I wish you a happy birthday. I wish you freedom. I love you. And I won't let you down, I promise.
Belarus was once part of the Soviet Union. I'm going to read from this tweet. Remember, Belarus is a dictatorship, hundreds in jail, including bloggers, influencers, activists. And people come despite fear and consequences. They can be fired and detained after, and they know it. This is extraordinary. That's our program for today. Stay safe, folks, but stay active. I'm Stanley Heller for The Struggle.